I was thinking of that you beat me to the punch now. That explaining that, because I'm going to ask you, why was Opti Catch invented, and there you are.
That's why.
There you go. That's the reason.
There is more to it than that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the main reason. But also, I think where we've been until now, if you look at all the different fluorescent EFKs that you can buy and have been able to buy for many years, they all do have different efficacy levels. They do all catch flies in slightly different ways. I'm not saying that they all catch flies exactly the same, so please don't think that. But they are all quite predictable in that they will do their job really well. They will catch flies well, irrespective of which trap you select. As long as it's placed properly, it's at the right height, it's in the right placement for, where you need to put it in order to catch insects. So, broadly speaking, they're all relatively predictable. But as you move into the LED space, it's not quite the same. It's not quite just, you can slap any LED trap on the wall, maybe like an unbranded LED trap that has been imported from the East and is perhaps not regulated in terms of catch rates, things like that. You can't just assume that an LED UV light source is going to catch flies as well as the fluorescent light source that you're replacing. And so I think there's strong, making shatterproof coatings for fluorescent lamps mean that most of our end users are food industry. And in a food industry setting, whether that's food manufacturing or food handling in restaurants, you can't compromise on the fly catch. It's what you've got it for. So those customers can't just blindly buy any LED trap and put it on the wall and expect to necessarily catch the same amount of insects as what they were catching before. And I think that can be problematic in certain applications. I fully appreciate there are some applications that it doesn't matter. It's a box tick. They've ticked a box to say they've got an E.F.K. They're never going to look at how many flies are on the glue board. It just doesn't bother them. But for the food industry, which is, relevant to all of us, none of us want flies in our yogurt or our pasta or anything like that. They need to be sure that when they upgrade to LED, it is an upgrade. And that means that you do not compromise your fly catch. And I think that's where the market at the moment, the LED market is still in its infancy, and I can imagine that for technicians especially, it's a bit difficult for them to separate, which trap is going to mean that my client's fly catch is not disrupted and is not going to drop, because that can be quite embarrassing for the technician if they've said, look, you need to upgrade, and then it's not really an upgrade. We were actually at an exhibition in Milan back in February, where quite a large end user for a large retail giant actually approached me and said that they had upgraded to a certain LED trap. They'd been told they had to because of the fluorescent ban, which, as you know, is a bit unfair. It wasn't true. What happened was they needed double the amount of traps in order to catch the same fly. So any money they're saving on energy savings is completely tied up in buying double the amount of traps, and they can't just catch less flies knowingly. It's it's food manufacturing for a very big retail giant in the UK, and so I think that shows that it's really important to be considerate, not just what you're are you retrofitting, are you utilizing your existing equipment, but how does this product compare to what my fluorescent lamp was doing? Where's the independent catch rate data to show me this is how many flies the fluorescent equivalent would ordinarily catch in a 3-hour window, and this is how many flies this LED product does, and are they the same or better on the LED side? Because LED is more expensive, isn't it? So you don't want to pay more and catch less. I know obviously you've got the energy savings, which is a huge plus, and the lack of mercury is a huge plus for the planet. There's so many benefits to LED, but you certainly don't need to rush to upgrade at the detriment to what you're ultimately doing, which is pest control. You need to control the flies.
Yeah, you do. I mean, it's like I'll tell you who come to mind is Jacob from Atlas Environmental Services. Now he does a lot of audited sites, like you say. Now when he changes the bulbs, he put a few weeks ago or months ago, it was when he was doing his bulb change. There's me thinking he's got a few. And I think he had something like 200 or 300 bulbs to change in service all them machines. I imagine saying to a client, right, you need it's all going by the wayside. We need to chuck all these in the bin, or however you eco way. That would be astronomical amount of money, wouldn't it? If you were to say to a client, we've got to upgrade, you've got to get a new unit, the lot. Now, a retrofit would be perfect for that scenario, wouldn't it? So that's why it's quite good. That's how I thought about when you said that, because when he has big clients, and when you've got people on that scale, it's like, wow, that would be a lot of money. You know, it will be, if you were to replace the entire units and everything, it will be.
I mean, don't get me wrong, there's definitely a place for new LED units, but I think it's all about what's best for the customer and their application, because, you know, there are some units that we can't retrofit into yet. It's not technically viable yet. So, the ones with the starters in, which are the most common ones, they retrofit fine, but any 15-watt T8 kind of unit that doesn't use a starter is using an electronic ballast, and there is not currently a retrofit solution on the market for those ballasts, because it's just a lot more difficult to get it right and make sure that it functions exactly right in every trap. And not only that, but it becomes incredibly more costly. So going back to general lighting, you can get retrofit LEDs in general lighting, and you have one LED lamp that does the switch start unit, so the ones that use a starter, and you have another retrofit LED for the electronic ballast, so the ones that don't use a starter, and you're looking at 3 times the price for the one that doesn't use a starter, because there's just so much more circuitry complexities involved in that development. And so right now in the insect control space, in the UVA space, there is only retrofit possibilities for switch start units. So, you know, if you have a customer, for example, that has, like you say, 200 or 300 lamps worth of traps, and they're all electronic ballasts, well, unfortunately, retrofit isn't currently an option for them. But if I were talking to them, I would say, don't rush. If fluorescent is doing its job right now and you're happy with it, keep using your fluorescent lamps, because who knows where the developments in the coming years will go on retrofit. We might get more, you know, it might become more technically viable, I suppose. But also, it might be possible to get, you know, the lamp form factor that you know and love. So, you know, going back to it, like an Opti Catch, it looks exactly like a fluorescent lamp. It fits exactly like a fluorescent lamp. It's a very predictable solution. You can buy new traps with Opti Catch in it. So if someone really wanted a normal, quote, normal lamp style, but they need to upgrade their fittings, there is still a solution there, because I think that's another resistance in the market, is that all these different LED traps, they've all got different fixings and they all do different things. And some customers just really like what they've always had, which is just that lamp form factor. They know what it is, they know what it looks like, they know exactly when they need to change it, and they're just happy with it. So obviously the benefit is that Opti Catch needs changing every 3 years rather than every 1 year. But other than that, the replacement process is largely the same. It's, you know, whether you're putting an Opti Catch in or a fluorescent in, it's exactly the same for the technician, which I think just makes life a little bit easier, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, but now I'll play devil's advocate. Now, I know there's some resistance in the industry, obviously, because, say, Opti Catch bulb, you replace once every 3 years. Replacing bulbs is quite lucrative. It is, as in the fluorescent bulbs, they can make quite a lot of money. And that's why a lot of people ain't switching, because they're not going to be able to service it like they were before. They can service it, but the customer be like, you really need to charge that. You're just literally cleaning it out, you know. And I have heard that. I have.
Yeah, and I completely acknowledge that. And actually, that was part of our consideration during the development, is that, you know, you could take an Opti Catch bulb, which pays for itself and its lifetime for the end user, but how does that sit with the technician? And I think I've spoken to a lot of technicians about this, and it's quite divisive. Some would say, as you say, that, you know, it removes revenue for them because they use the yearly replacement as a service, as something that they upsell, and they obviously can, if they want to, put a margin on the actual lamp itself. And others say, do you know what, I'm glad that I don't have to go and change that every year, because that's, you know, it's one less thing to do You know, they're still going to change the glue boards. And I think, again, it does depend on if it's glue board traps or killing grid traps, because glue boards would probably be changed. I mean, in a food environment, I'd expect it to be changed at least 4 times a year. You know, correct me if I'm wrong. So they're still going, they're still going to that anyway. But obviously, non-food environments, I can totally see why it reduces that visit, and therefore the associated fees that you can charge with it. But I would say, you know, in that case, I'd say keep buying fluorescent. I'm not trying to push anyone to Opti Catch if it's not right for their circumstances. Keep buying fluorescent. I'm very passionate that the fluorescent supply chain has got, as I've said, many years ahead of it. And I think that the best way to approach LED is, here's all the benefits of Opti Catch. Here's the reasons why I think it's good. But if you don't, keep with your fluorescent. Why change it if you're not ready to? Why change it if it's not going to suit your personal business model?
I love that, because it's genuine. It's not like, buy my Opti Catch, it's the best, you must do it. Like, you're like, if you're happy with what you're happy with, carry on. It's like, because that's how you can tell it's not all about money for you. It's at teaching people education and letting people have what they're happy with. Now, say for instance as well, I mean, I don't sell many EFKs. I try, but I fail. I do. A lot of my clients just not interested. I'll be honest. I try, but you know, it's just one of them things in commercial.
It's not massively regulated in those particular applications, is it? So
pubs,
it's like, well,
pubs and restaurants.
I
know. I tell them that your EFK is rubbish in a nice way, and then I can get you a good one. Nah, I'm not interested.
I think what you'll find is people will come around to it when they have a fly infestation one day, and they think, oh.
I said that to one customer. I did. I said, it's not a problem now with the EHO, but say the EHO walks in the summer and you've got a fly infestation, then it will be a problem. But I have offered them it. All you
can do is advise them that, because, like, for us, pest control is proactive. Pest control should never be, ideally, reactive.
Yeah, I know.
But if your customer decides to approach it reactively, and they're just going to not have something in place until the time that they get an infestation, well, you've done your bit. You've advised them what they need to proactively do, but you can only say so much. You can take a horse to water, but you can't make it drink.